Welcome to the Judgment Call Podcast, a podcast where I bring together some of the most curious minds on the planet. Risk takers, adventurers, travelers, investors, entrepreneurs, and simply mind-bogglers. To find all episodes of this show, simply go to Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, or go to our website, judgmentcallpodcast.com. If you like this show, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or subscribe to us on YouTube. This episode of the Judgment Call Podcast is sponsored by Mighty Travels Premium. Full disclosure, this is my business. What we do at Mighty Travels Premium is to find the airfare deals that you really want. Thousands of subscribers have saved up to 95% in their airfare. Those include $150 round-trip tickets to Hawaii from many cities in the US, or $600 lie-flat tickets in business class from the US to Asia, or $100 business class lie-flat tickets from Africa round-trip all the way to Asia. In case you didn't know, about half the world is open for business again and accepts travelers. Most of those countries are in South America, Africa, and Eastern Europe. To try out Mighty Travels Premium, go to mightytravels.com/MTP, or if that's too many letters for you, simply go to MTP, the number 4, and the letter U.com to sign up for your 30-day free trial. I'm here today with Xavier de la Rue, and Xavier is world famous. He's a world champion in snowboarding. And he's also, besides being a daredevil of snowboarding, he's also now a YouTuber. And he runs his own podcast, the Sustainability Dialogues podcast. Welcome to the Judgment Call. How are you, Xavier?
Hello, I'm very, very good. I'm on a different time zone, obviously. It's nighttime now. I'm in Switzerland. And I'm recovering from a little injury on the knee. But I'll be back on snow very soon. Yeah.
Well, then we fit in very well. We'll help you with the recovery. We hopefully get some interesting tales today. And I really appreciate you doing this. I know you're busy. And I know the winter season is normally your busy season. What I found so interesting...
With a knee injury, sorry I cut you, but with a knee injury, I've got a lot more time.
Yeah, we got really lucky. How bad is it? Will you be able to ride the season? Or is it like
I'm going to be riding in a month or so. It's just, it's something that I needed to do for a long time. It was just my knee rubbing, like from, I think I kind of worked on my knees quite a lot over the years. It's not bad. Like, I thought it was bad, so I never went to see the doctor, but then I finally went to see him, and he told me, it's actually nothing. Yeah, so I've done it, and it's great because it's, there are a lot of avalanches right now. It's like a super unstable snowpack in the mountains. So it's a bit of a weird situation that we have that we've never had kind of ever. So there's been a lot of accidents. So I'm in a way happy to just switch off, go away for a bit, and then I'll come back fresh and ready to live some new adventures.
Well, that would be my first topic. I think you're helping with my segues. So you really fit the definition of this podcast to a T. You know, we're trying to bring together risk takers, and usually by risk taking we mean people take a certain conviction of theirs and put it against an opinion that's outside the mainstream. And often they risk their reputation, they risk their own money, they lost billions of dollars. But there's relatively few people who actually risk their life, right? So you go out there, and people will see it in the background. Some of the videos that you graciously allow us to show in the background, and those look to someone who doesn't have a lot of exposure to snowboarding and to skiing and mountaineering. To me, they just look incredible. Like the potential for injuries and the potential for accidents seem from the outside, right? I'm definitely not a snowboard insider. It seems like you're risking your life on a daily basis or weekly basis. Do you feel the same, or do you think once you get into it, once you get all the experience, and you've been doing this for 20 years or if not longer, it feels kind of safe to you?
No, it doesn't. It's a bit of a
crap.
It's something that's really tough with this sport, actually, because I really believe strongly that it's the most beautiful sport there is in the world. But at the same time, it's the trickiest because you play on an element that's really hard to control. So that's the snowpack, like the snow. And you can study it as much as you want. You can be with however many experts. You can take however many measures that you want. There's always going to be risks. So you cannot do all that riding all the time. Not like saying, okay, this is good to go, it's bad to go. It's like, it's never 100%. So there's always, the risk that's out there, and you always play with it. So you're always in a bit of a crisis management, I would say. And that's something that's kind of very tough to handle over the years, I would say. Yeah, sometimes you feel into it and like you feel good about it. And then sometimes it just starts to weigh on you, and then it can be tricky, but it can be magical. So I think
I can imagine.
It's one of the things in life. You could be like, oh, I should stop because it is stupid, but you keep going. So yeah, I've been going away from your question, but to answer your question, do I risk my life every day? Like, to a certain extent, in a way, yes, things can happen, but okay, we minimize the risk. We really try to do everything possible to always study everything, to take the right measures, the right gear, the right people, everything, but still things can happen. Yeah.
I feel like what you guys do is a bit like the Formula One of snowboarding, right? You go out there and you really test the boundaries, and the hills and the mountains and the cliffs you are snowboarding on, they seem to be completely untouched. They seem like you're the first snowboarders, or pretty much the first anyone with skis or something similar is on these hills. How do you mitigate the risks there? Do you scope them out with drones? Do you scope them out with helicopters? How do you find the perfect place in the first place? And then how do you find out where you actually want to be, particularly with your snowboard? And then also third, and I'm not sure if that is pre-plannable. Do you know exactly? And I think it's called a line. Do you know exactly your line before you go up on that mountain?
Oh, so that's a lot of questions in one, but
sorry about that.
Basically, I think I think it's a good way to kind of define what I do exactly, because it's just literally going and trying to ride those lines that are far out there, that seems unreachable. So they could be kind of like on the insides from your ski resort, or they could be just at the other end of the world in Antarctica, let's say. Like for many years, I've done it kind of fairly locally, a bit in Alaska. So with helicopters, like using kind of this kind of means. And then like further on, I've been going a lot more like to exotic places where there was like some regions that really made me dreams. There was never like really one run that I was going like across the world for. It was always like kind of a style of mountains that I was looking for. And it was not necessarily just about that one run, but it was also about telling the story on what it took to get there. So for example, Antarctica, we took a boat. It was like a lot of suffering to the waves, and then like studying the snowpack, and then riding some small lines until we got to ride the mega big lines. So it's kind of trying to show everything that it took to kind of ride those lines. And usually, so a descent, like if you do a really serious run, it's something that you're gonna study sometimes for a few days. So you're gonna go in front of it, you're gonna take picture, you're gonna memorize it, you're gonna try to feel the snow. You might write some things on the side to try to get as much information as you can, so that whenever you get out there and whenever you decide that it's good to go, you're gonna have quite a good plan in your head, and you're gonna know more or less, like pretty much exactly which are the tricks, which are the key points where you need to go through, and you're gonna know very precisely your line in a way. So it's a bit of a process. It's not something that you get by just going up in the mountains every day, riding, like free riding even. It's something that's quite specific and that you develop over time. Especially when you're doing films and you're doing freeride competitions and things like this, it kind of makes you really, ride in that style and really get that process in your head. And then eventually you start to really, have that way of seeing the mountains that kind of just gets into you, and that's the way you ride after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks just breathtaking. Obviously the scenery is just breathtakingly beautiful, but then when we look at the videos, we see you, and sometimes there's another rider, and you're like this little dot, and then you basically go 150 degrees vertical, and then you jump over a cliff. When you jump over a cliff, is that something exactly? That's that long a jump, right? That's say 15 yards, 20 yards, 100 yards. I don't actually know how long the jumps are because of the perspective. I have no feeling for that. Do you know exactly where you need to land, or is there? And it seems like there's only seconds in between. You go down from that peak of the hill until you make that jump, and then you actually go into a more snowpack. Do you model it out in your mind, or do you literally just go there and see how you're in a flow, and then basically your mind decides for you? Like, how conscious is this process in the first place?
No, like when you ride a line, there are some parts of the line where you're just gonna take it as it comes, but you're gonna have some key features, and jumps and cliffs are part of those, where you're gonna have to know exactly where you're gonna go through them. So, for example, a jump, like to give you a perspective, if you watch a cliff from the bottom, you're gonna see a cliff bend. That's like quite easy to spot and to recognize. But from the top, everything looks kind of snowy, so it's really hard to project the vision you've had from the bottom and put it in your head when you're at the top and recognize all the features. But when you go on a jump, it's mandatory to know exactly which direction you should go, precisely, because you don't want to jump and land anywhere because it's way too risky. So that's something that we take quite seriously. So you try to kind of gauge the size of the cliff by, comparing it to whatever there is at the top. And when you're at the top, it's gonna give you a bit of a dimension of the jump. And then you're gonna use some of the feature that you've been spotting. So, for example, if on the cliff there was a bit of a wind leap or a bit of an alignment with rocks, that's gonna give you a bit of a direction. You know that, okay, I should not go, for example, left from the angle of the wind leap on top of the cliff. So it's like kind of you play it by ears a bit with the scenario, with the light, with the snow, with the features around. But you don't want to mess too much around. I would say that the way we work is not necessarily to try to be uber precise about everything we need to ride, but it's like we try to be uber precise about the things we should be careful of. So, for example, the angle on the jump you should not take at all, or the speed you should not take in a certain zone, or the fall you should not take in this particular zone. So this is the things that really stick to your head when you're at the top of the run, and you kind of shove them into your head, like by just visualizing them, and you kind of put them a bit in a conscious way, I always say. But then when you start riding, because you've thought so much about it, it's been printed in your brain, so you don't need to think about it anymore. It's there, so you don't need to think, and you can just let the flow go, and it will make you take more or less the right decision if you've done your homework well before. Yeah.
And in terms of speed, give us an idea how fast you guys actually go there. It looks like you go 100 miles an hour. Do you have like a speedometer to tell, or you only know from the video yourself?
Yeah, it's actually funny, but I never ever took a speedometer with me. But I don't think we reached the 100 miles. And it depends also. Some technical lines we would go very slow. We would go maybe 10 miles an hour in some lines because it's very technical. But I would say that when you see us going fast, maybe we're probably going like 70 miles an hour or something like this.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, but it's such a good feeling. You feel the wind leaning on your body, and you kind of lean a bit on the air and just try to navigate like this. It kind of transformed the feeling. I always find that, that moment when you let the board go and that you get like the speed coming up, it kind of starts to feel like a video game a little bit. And it's such a cool feeling. It's basically the feeling why I do this. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have that feeling. It never really happened for me. I think I'm too tall. I have a terrible balance. So when I was on skis, I looked like a complete idiot. I could go down a couple of the black marked
runs,
trails, but I had trouble really enjoying the sport. It was too much, I'm too conscious for this. It was too slow, right? I was too slow, and my brain was overwhelmed, and I was just eating a lot of snow. And I think a lot of people say that they have that, if they have the balance, and if they get into this flow and this speed rush, this is really the enjoyment of skiing, and downhill skiing is for them. And I don't know if you look deeper into this. There seems to be something deeply psychological about that, how we inherited this trait that we feel once we go down a hill really fast. It can be a car ride for some people. It's a car or a motorcycle ride. But if we are in the elements, we go down we are fast. Let's put it this way, and we have this shot of endorphins. It is something that is extremely attractive to people. And I haven't really traced it back to our ancestry. I don't know if it's a fight or flight reflex, right? That we were running like crazy from some lions, or maybe, I don't know, jumping over cliffs at the time and trying to save our lives. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know if you ever thought about what created this reflex in many of us to be so happy when we go really fast, and beautiful scenery that often plays a role.
It's funny, but it never ever crossed my mind to ask myself that question. But like hearing you talking, it makes me feel that, I don't know, maybe when you do it, it feels so unreal that you feel probably not human anymore. Like that you feel like you're like a bit of a spirit or whatever there is out there. Because, I know that what I like about this feeling is that when you reach that stage, you're just in the zone, kind of. I don't know, like, a lot of people describe this moment where you're like something where like kind of time slows down. Like you're going faster, but time slows down. Like you have the feeling that you control everything around you, and I don't know. There's something. I don't know if it's mystical or if it's physical, but there's something really which happens and which is really addictive in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can absolutely see that. Is it more like an out of body experience, you think, or is it more like you feel like you're in control of the elements? It's more like a godlike, like you say, spirit-like experience. How does it feel to you? Do you think that's what you were born for, or you feel like, whoa, this is I can, I don't know, in a good way rule the world? How does it feel to you in that moment? This I assume there's like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, but it probably seems much longer than that.
Yeah, no, it's not that long. Like the runs when you go fast and things, like even if they're really big runs, they can go really quick. It's just a matter of minutes. And it's really, really hard to say, where it comes from. And I think it's very personal to everyone. But I don't know. For me, like when I do this, I think like a part of the good feeling comes from the fact of, like letting go. You just put your board in the line with the run, you just let go, and you just kind of not say screw you, all the danger and everything. You just like, it's like when you're on stage and you're shy and everything, and then all of a sudden you just go like, rah, you just shout and you just get everything you have inside you and get it out there. I think I could compare that feeling when you just you just let go, you just express yourself, you just let all the boundaries and all the things, which you try to be slowing down and everything. No, fuck it. I'm just gonna go down. Sorry, am I allowed that word?
It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I guess, does that run in your family? Is your family as good at snowboarding as you, or they do skiing? You guys go out together, or is it just you? Are you the rebel in the family, and everyone else is basically just saying, "What the hell is he up to?"
No, my parents were never really into it. My dad was into it when he grew up. He grew up in the mountains as well, but then he's been working. But we're 5 brothers and sisters, and so it must have been a lot to maintain. Well, it has been a lot to maintain us for sure. But I think, I don't know why, because it was not our parents really getting us or forcing us into it. But all of my brothers, like my brother, like the youngest, he's world champion freeriding as well from 2 years ago.
Wow.
The other one is Olympic medalist in border cross, and like the other one, he just loves mountaineering. He just spends his time climbing and stuff. So, and my sister as well, she was like French champion in border cross, and she's a charger as well. So I think we've got a little something in us which like kind of makes us pretty good with risk. I think we keep our head cold. I think that's kind of a trait that I can see throughout all of us. And I think probably the fact of being many brothers and sisters, I think we've been inspiring ourselves and kind of breaking boundaries for the others, kind of in a way. When one was doing something, the other one was just like, oh, my brother is doing it, so I can do it as well. So I think that probably helped us to kind of reach further steps. But yeah, it's actually really cool to share that. And talking of my immediate family, actually, my wife, she used to be a pro skier as well. And my daughter is a big charger in free riding, just did her first backflips last weekend. And yeah. So yeah, I think we're all in there.
There's something in the water, right? I hear some resemblance of the Jackson family, right? It's amazing how that family, and maybe it was certainly pressure involved, but there was also a lot of talent involved, lots of it. How they created so much talent out of one family, right? And a lot of people, and in a lot of places, you will see one rebel in the family that kind of goes out there and proves him or herself, right? So that's an amazing story that you guys all can share this. I think that's pretty rare that there's actually a healthy competition between the siblings. Very often it ends up that the siblings are at odds with each other sooner or later. But you guys seem to really enjoy the same hobby. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there's never been any bad competition between us, and that's you're right. That's really amazing, and like I was the first kind of in there, and I remember like so vividly like my first brother who came in on the tour with me back in the days, competing on the World Cup circuit and everything. He was kind of looking up to me, but so many times I thought, oh, it would be so easy for you to just be jealous and be annoyed at me. And he always just took the good things out of me, like in a really positive way. And he gave me back also a lot. And he made us both really stronger. And I've always been really like thankful to him like for that.
Yeah,
because it's not easy for sure.
I wish my family would be a little bit like that. But that's going to be in another life. Did you try any other sports? Did you try basketball or other sports where you felt like you can use similar skills? Basketball is probably a terrible example, but something that's not winter sport where you felt like you were already really good. Like a lot of NFL players that were really good at baseball or even in the NBA, and they could have easily had a career in a different kind of sports or in a different league.
No, it's funny you mentioned basketball because it is the good bad example for me in a way, because when you grow up as a mountain kid, like you don't have so much access, to like team sport in a way, and it's definitely not the number one thing. Well, in some places you do, but wherever I grew up, it wasn't the case. So I remember being in high school and being so bad at soccer, so bad at basketball, so bad at these sports because I hadn't done it much when I was a kid. But for me, it's been really about like all the outdoor sports, like, and it's still the case today. I've always needed, like to feel that contact with nature. So I spent a lot of my years surfing, and especially that we have such a seasonal sport with snow, it's been perfect in summers to just spend time at the sea and like kind of feel a bit of the sea element into my life. And then, I do a lot of paragliding, rock climbing, mountaineering, mountain biking. But I'm pretty much 100% focused on sports that happen really in nature. Yeah, except for skateboarding, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that must be something you can easily do in summer. It's just, I don't know, keep your balance and kind of stay in the game.
Yeah, in summer in the mountains, there's so much to do. It's really it's something that I enjoy more and more. Like just being out there and whatever weather you have, whatever conditions. You can always find something really cool to do. So I really, really love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you do a lot of YouTube videos, and some of them I want to ask you about how often these the things you mentioned occur. Some of the titles of your YouTube videos are how to drop off a cliff, and that's a tutorial, right? That's for other snowboarders. Extreme snowboard free ride lines, what to do in an avalanche, ride ice, cross a bergschrund. Is snowboarding really that dangerous? I'm not a practitioner. I have no idea, right? But is that advice that people who do snowboard, they need that a lot? Like you would think that's 90% of the snowboarders, they will face these questions. Or is it something where you feel like, well, this is my expert knowledge. I'm like the Bear Grylls, right, of snowboarding, and I'm sharing this to show people where kind of that's the edge of it. And if you're on the edge of this, there's still a way back, right? You don't have to give up.
No, it's a good question, but yeah, for sure, what I do is a bit of the tip of the iceberg in a way, and it's like probably by far the most dangerous in snowboarding. And I would say that it's a small percentage of the population of snowboarders who do that. And for sure, if you go on slopes, if you go on holidays, whenever, you're not gonna have to experience any of that. But more and more people really enjoy riding powder, enjoy free riding. And eventually when you free ride, even though you're not going to go on something super crazy, you're always going to be facing those kind of challenges. So even though in my videos, it kind of shows a lot of pretty full on content, where on big runs and things, it's really applicable for any kind of free riding, I think. And it is actually something that's quite mandatory when you do that sport, that you have to go through that knowledge. It's a bit of a tricky sport. And right now in the Alps we have quite a lot of accidents happening. And it's such a trendy sport. Everybody just buys the gear, go out there, and they think, okay, we've got the airbag, we've got the transceiver, to get found in the avalanche, so we're all good. But yeah, there's so much that goes with it, so much knowledge that you need to acquire. And we really struggle, because we've been advertising freeriding for many years, and just, showing, hey guys, we're living the dream, you could live it too, in a way, kind of. But right now we're really struggling to show kind of the dark side of the coin a bit, and the reality, which you can face when things go wrong, and things do go wrong pretty easily in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, you guys must feel like in the beach, the famous movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he finds that hidden beach, tells everyone about it, and then the second it's full, the beach is gone, right? The atmosphere of that beach is gone, and the free. It's always hard to define this, but there's people who understand the rules without formulating any real rules. They understand them because they have so much knowledge. And then once it goes beyond that, where people don't have the experience necessarily, they're just attracted to it, and they're attracted to that area and to the community, then it's being ruined. And so that would be my first question. The second is, I know you've been yourself in an avalanche, and I see some of the videos, it looks like you're literally causing a little avalanche, right? And just because you're snowboarding down there. That must be a huge danger of the sport, right? That you either are part of it, that you cause it for some other people. How do you deal with this? Is that something you really worry about for yourself and others, or that's something where you say, well, these avalanches happen anyways?
No, well, you could never think like this, just thinking that the avalanche happens anyways. Basically, avalanches are the dark side of the sport, and it's something that you always fear, that you always prepare for, that you always talk about, but that you never control. And it's something that's really kind of, it's basically the big topic, the big risk of the sport, and the thing that's not 100% controllable. It's not for example, you could think of the craziest sports like base jumping, or even some heavy metal mountaineering, where it's the fatality will be based on your mistake a lot of the time. But there in the mountains, and especially with snowpack, it's you could be doing everything right. If you're at the wrong place at the right time, things could go wrong. So it's just, that you need to learn to ride with this in mind, so that you're going to learn to always have a good behavior in the mountain and take all the right steps and try to have them become a habit in a way so that you're going to minimize constantly the risk. So it's, I was talking of crisis management before. It's that, like, because the crisis is that the risk is always there no matter what you do. So you need to put all the chances on your side all the time. So that's what you do. And it's something that's like a bit annoying, because it would be so much better to just be out there with your friends. It's a great powder day. It's sunny. You're having a good time. But no, you need to think of danger. You think if everyone has got their gear, if everyone is prepared, if everyone knows where to go. Like in your run, you need to check every single part of the run. It's kind of a bit of a downside of the run. And at the beginning, like, it's pretty easy to just blind yourself from it, but eventually you get a bit of a recall from the mountain and hopefully not too much of a bad one. And then you realize that this is something that you have no choice. It is the price to pay. Like, if you want to be free riding, you need to be having, you enjoy a little bit, but you need to stay really focused and really aware of everything going around you. And you really need to always be a bit kind of schizophrenic at what's going to happen. And, not schizophrenic, a bit paranoiac of what's going to happen, like to try to being able to see the risk come, because it could come from many directions. And, it's,
I find this amazing. I heard you say that you go so fast because you don't want to be caught by the avalanche. And I'm like, holy shit, that's really daredevil. It seems to be happening a lot then. Give me an idea how often, in terms of, say you do 50 runs, how often would there be a little avalanche at least? And what is kind of the survival rate in the sense of you can avoid an avalanche or you can be run over by it, but you have the equipment. I don't actually know the specifics, but I know there is a lot of new equipment. That equipment helps you to be alive for the next couple of hours until you're being found. Is it like it's scary, but everyone's fine, or I don't know how much technology has changed over the last couple of years.
No. Well, actually, what you said is just perfect, because that's kind of a wrong idea that's going around. Like, kind of, because there are indeed those airbags. Like, so whenever you get into an avalanche or a slab would be a small avalanche. Would be like a tiny pocket of snow which releases, and whenever it goes really big, it becomes an avalanche. Like to explain you, and those airbags, they're basically bags where you have a handle. It's your backpack, and whenever something happens, you're going to pull it, and it's going to deploy some big balloons, which are going to help you to float. Help you, which means they're not necessarily going to make you float. So if you end up in a hole with the avalanche, you could still get buried. And it helps your chances by a little bit, but it depends. If you're above cliffs or if you're above trees or anything, it will help you. It will not help you at all. It will actually even drag you even more. But in some cases, scenario, it helps you, but never completely. So a lot of people think, okay, I've got this, I've got my transceiver, which is like kind of the transceiver, which will help you to get found or find your friends. But, in an avalanche, after 15 minutes in the avalanche, you lose 70% of your chances of survival. So, wow. So it's like super minimal. And so that's why when you ride, when something happens, you don't even have time to call the rescue. Even if you're in a ski resort, your friend is there, he calls the rescue straight away. Like, for sure, they're going to take at least 20 minutes to come. So, you see your life chances going down. And then by the time they've started the search, found where you are, they probe you, they're sure exactly where you are at. If you're just below the snow, it might take like maybe 5 minutes to dig you out. But if you're under 2 meters of snow, which happens really easily, it's going to take an hour. And like your chances then are like a few percent. So that kind of tells you how critical it can be. Yeah. And people just don't realize that. Like, they think, okay, I've got the gear. I'm in a ski resort close to the piste, so it must have been protected. But no, it's a mountain sport, and like slopes are protected, but like all the off-piste, it's not bombed, it's not avalanche controlled. So it's like you're you're playing with your life. Yeah. I'm sorry, I sound very dramatic, but yeah, it's just been such crazy times.
This is what we want you to. That's what you want you. I mean, this is something people have to keep in mind. Give me an idea how often that actually happens. So you out of 50 runs, how often do you think it would happen that there is something you have to worry about?
No, I would say that out of 50 runs, like I would speak from my side. So because I like to go in steep technical terrain, so there would be, I let's say maybe like five runs where I would release a little thing, or maybe 10 runs. So it's like
wow, but that's pretty. That's not that rare then. That happens quite a bit then.
Yeah, but it's like that's why it's a bit how do you say an antagonist, like, because in a way you think, like, for most of people, like a big flattish run, like with a lot of powder, like with no obstacles, no rocks and things, will be the safest. But for me, it's what scares me the most, because basically it's the highest potential avalanche danger. But on a steep run, okay, you might release some pockets, but they're gonna be easy to identify. So you're gonna see, like, very often we see the pocket and we know we're gonna come at speed with it and just kind of break it and go and hide in a safe place right after it. So it's kind of part of the process. And as long as you don't get tricked, and so that it drags you into some exposure, then it's something that's fairly easy to deal with. So that's why, out of 50 runs, there could be between 5 and 10 times where I would be crossing some of those. But if I was riding flattish, like really mellow runs with a lot of powder, like all feeling kind of and looking safe, I would say 0 times, or 1 time out of 50 there would be something. But the problem is that when something happens on those runs, it's just probably a lot bigger and a lot deeper, so a lot more dangerous in a way.
I think this is where Nassim Taleb's anti-fragility comes into play. I don't know if you ever heard about Nassim Taleb. He's a writer, philosopher. A lot of people. He's been getting really popular the last 10, 15 years. But he worked in finance, and he says if you see volatilities or things are correcting themselves quite quickly, like small avalanches, right? So they are actually not that dangerous because you can see them coming to an extent and you cause them a lot, but actually everyone can adjust to it. But if we have like an economy like now where the stock market really doesn't really change for like decades, you just build up this fragility. So it looks pretty safe because it hasn't moved in a long time, as you say, with the flatter area, but it's actually the opposite. So it might not be the same probability, but if it happens, right, you're screwed. There's like a couple of meters of snow on you, and then just, I guess, the compression will kill you. You don't even worry about oxygen anymore. If you have a couple of meters of snow on top of you.
Yeah, it's a super good analogy. Because it's exactly that. Because it doesn't go very often, because it's not steep enough. It will let the snow accumulate, and when it goes massive, and it goes everywhere. And because it's like wide open, the terrain is not really split up like it could be in a steep run. There it means that the whole thing will go, and as you say, the consequences are like completely different, because there's going to be like millions of cubic meters of snow, which are after you, and nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
Well, one thing I wonder about from the videos we see in the background is there like a camera crew? Are you like, I'm referring always to Bear Grylls, because none of us was really aware and thinking of it that he had a whole camera crew, right? He always showed himself, and he was sleeping in a tent, or not even a tent. He was shown to sleep in a tree, but actually he slept in a nice hotel, right? When there was a whole film crew set up that's set up everything. And he never said he is alone there, but he kind of made it sound that way, and no one really called him out on it. And then like a couple of seasons later, people said, okay, well, there's like a whole crew there. There's like 30 people preparing everything, and there's safety advisors and safety harnesses everywhere. So otherwise he wouldn't be able to do it, because, he's expensive to insure him. And, is it the same for you guys? Do you have a bunch of people that basically do the filming, a bunch of people who come in and do the safety equipment, and is there like what I'm trying to get at, is there like harnesses everywhere, and you can, if a run goes bad, you can just stop pretty much everywhere?
No, that would be too easy. No. In some places we may have one or two guides that are with us. Maybe especially if we film with a helicopter. So that's something where you really try to film action. But in most of the films that I do, it's going to be more an adventure that you're going to be filming. So you're going to be at the other end of the world in a place where there are no helicopters, because helicopters are all right if you want just to show some heavy metal actions, but they're like pretty tame in terms of telling a story. You're gonna up the mountains, you're gonna shred like crazy, and that's it. Whereas like when you live in adventure, there's always all this aspect of what it takes to get there and stuff. And in those cases, we might have a guide with us there, but you're still at the other end of the world, and like rescue would take a few days to come and get you. So it's not like you can just stop in the middle of your run and just get pulled out. And also, in any case, like even if you're close to mountain guides, if you have a helicopter close by, that's actually probably the safest you can be in freeriding, because the helicopter can literally come to you in a few seconds. But in a way, in a run, you cannot always just stop and just say, "Hey, please, I'm out," because when things happen so quickly and so dramatically that if you're not at the right spot, no one is going to be able to come and get you until like the avalanche or the Serac fall or the Cornice fall or whatever has stopped. So it's a pretty intense sport, because like your descent is going to last only a few minutes, and in these few minutes, you may have been spending weeks to just get there to leave those few minutes, and in those a lot of things could happen, and very quickly.
So you better have good camera people, because you cannot retake the same take, right? You only have one chance of filming this literally the whole day or maybe the whole week.
Yeah, and also because once you've ridden your run once, then there is a track. So you cannot just ride it and just go back up again and refilm it. So it's like you need to nail it like first thing. And also in the mountains, it's always pretty tough to get the access right in terms of being at the top when the snow is good, the snow is safe, the light is good, the crew is ready. It's like a lot of things going on. But I've experienced in my life like I've been like doing some cameos and like some stunt action like for a few movies, and like you would have like 200 people there with helicopters everywhere, and that's like so many film crew, like so many cameramen, so many guides everywhere, and it just becomes a nightmare, because in the mountains, it's such a tough environment that you're much better at being a small but tight crew. And that's the way I've been working over the years, like just 2 riders, 1 filmer, or maybe 2 filmers, 1 photographer, 1 guide, and that's it. Like that's kind of the dream scenario usually, and that's what I try to privilege as much as possible.
Yeah. I realized reading about your adventures, you go to pretty awesome places. I know you went to Antarctica. You went to Spitsbergen. Some of the places I went to pretty much everywhere in the world, but I haven't been to Antarctica, so I'm really jealous. But I'm not a winter person, so yeah, well, it's a challenge for me. And I'm not a fan of turbulence. How was your Antarctica adventure? Did you feel that was like totally different than what you've seen before, or that was just, it could have been Spitsbergen or it could have been Alaska?
No, I went I went twice actually to Antarctica, and the first time I went thinking exactly what you just said. I thought I was just going to be in another snowy country where there would be like a bit of a hassle to go through the Drake Passage and like through that ocean and to just get out there. So it would be nice to just go and witness it. But both times I went, I literally, thought I was going to die on the way, and I did not know why I was on that boat anymore, because we were just like getting so crushed by such heavy storms. It's the heaviest oceans in the world, like the heaviest crossing you can get.
It can be rough, yeah.
And I remember both times, like the first morning where I should have been like, fuck this, I'm not wanting to snowboard. I just want to die, basically. This is the mindset that I was in. And I remember opening the window and seeing those peaks, seeing these lights, seeing everything around, and being like straight away, boom, like like this is so magic. And yeah, and I've been twice, and both times, I don't know, it's just been so intense in so many ways, so special, like so different. It feels like another planet. First of all, there's like no humans that live there, so that kind of changes completely the game, because you're on your own with your little boat. All the wildlife is not scared of you, so you will see like all these whales going around your boat all the time, all the penguins. At the bottom of your run, you could have hundreds of penguins. They just come and see you, and they're not scared. And all the seals are out there, and the sea lions. It's the same. And you just float through the icebergs, and you've got that kind of really Arctic light, which is a bit bluey and which is like really special. I don't know, it's just a combination of things which is just like unbeatable. And yeah, I've been in pretty much all the mountains of the world, and I remember like after the second trip with all the crew, we were like, man, like after this we're never gonna be able to do a trip which like goes to which compares even a little bit with this one. I think this is just unbeatable, and it's been the case really. Like nothing has been even close to Antarctica for me.
Have you been to the Himalayas, up on the high mountains there?
No, I've always been actually quite nervous about, it's a thing, like, a lot of people have asked me like, okay, like now your thing should be to go and ride one of those 8,000 meter peaks. But for me, like my philosophy has always been to, it's not a mountaineering philosophy. It's not about, like getting to the highest peak and riding the line down. For me, it's been more an aesthetic kind of things. It's always been like, I want to ride this mountain because it's beautiful, because if you see it with that light and everything, with the shape of that wind lip, it's going to be beautiful. So it has never been a matter of, being the highest mountain, the craziest, the sketchiest or whatever. And I've always felt that already what I do is super, super, super dangerous. And if I would add on top the very high altitude aspect where, you can, like you're so limited with your brain, it's so dependent on not even your shape and your training, but basically your metabolism. Like some people are really good at it, some people are not. And like you suffer so much, like you have all your capacities that are so reduced, that I thought that to me was like, first of all, so much risk. Like, it's so easy to just stop down. You just sit down in the snow, start to put your bindings on, and then you don't have enough oxygen in your system, and you just fall asleep and you die. Like this kind of thing is like, why should I put myself through this? When already what I do is already so borderline.
Yeah, but you would be the perfect candidate, so to speak. I mean, if anyone can do it, then it would be you, right? And you have so much experience in the mountains. So I think the Himalayas, and I went a couple of times. I went, barely to 5,000 meters. It's very majestic, right? And it's something that very few people are made to do. I'm not clearly not made for it, but I feel like you have. I mean, maybe not snowboarding, but just I don't know, climbing. Did you think about that too, or if you go, then you really want to snowboard? You don't want to climb. You don't want to walk down. That's too boring.
Well, I think if I go there, I would for sure bring my snowboard, because it would be a lot faster to come down, and that would make it also even. There would be a bit of a reward when you hike up there,
True.
like or a better reward. But yeah, it's just a very specific style, which takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. And I've had such a busy life in the last 10 years, especially with my career, that it's just been too much. So, but I don't put it completely off the table. It could be one of those days that, I have a lot more space in my life, and it would be the time, because I think this is definitely an approach which is good for when you're really mature, when you're like kind of like more later in your career rather than early.
Yeah, talking about what you're going to do next. So what's like on your list? What you really want to do the next couple of years?
Well, right now, I think the next project I am working on right now is to basically, right now there are some really light paraglides that are like just above a kilo. And so you can pack them so easily into your backpack. And it's just to use that to access lines. So using, being in a ski resort or using the car or using different means, and then riding a line and maybe exiting the line because there's no normal exit to it, or it would take you a day of walking through something. Just taking the paraglide to just go to the next valley and just being able to get out to means. So kind of to show a bit, this thing. It's a discipline that's like getting quite common with rock climbing, or even we call it hike and fly. That's getting quite big. You just go and hike, and instead of breaking your knees on the way down, you just fly down. And this is a bit of an extension of that, so I'm really excited to work with this. Yeah, I basically think I need kind of means to discover, to bring in and like join with my snowboarding to kind of find new things to explore. Because I felt that just doing rad lines, like being like the craziest, the fastest, the whatever, is something that reached its limits fairly quickly into my career. But I've been very excited that like the prospect of mixing the snowboarding with other things where I could learn a lot, where I could experience and fail and succeed. And this is basically one of those things, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I read you've been investing in a couple of companies, or like helping them to get more exposure, and you're also doing the podcast, right? Well, what was the inspiration for this? I know it's about sustainability. That is clearly a very strong topic for a lot of people. What do you feel is the message that hasn't been unsaid? Let's put it this way, or that you transport out there. I mean, you have a lot of bigger audience than pretty much anyone else. What do you think can you contribute to that? It's a lofty goal, but it's also a very big goal, right? Actual sustainability.
Yeah, sustainability is a subject that I never that was dear to me personally, but that I never wanted to express publicly. And I've had the chance to meet in Verbier Johan Raxson. So he's the head of the Potsdam Institute. He's been like the director of all the institute that have drafted the Paris agreements. So that's quite like trendy at the moment, with Trump being not there anymore. But anyways, listening to him, it's completely changed my mind, because he's had such a nice way to explain things. So I could watch his whole presentation of his view on the situation on global warming, and I knew, okay, we're in a bad situation, but I didn't really know how. And in the news you would hear this and that, like the contrary informations, always informations that would cancel the other ones, and I always felt that I was never able to know exactly what was going on in the world, to being able to speak about it. So by listening to him, I understood quickly, what happened. I really loved his vision, where basically it was not about, trying to be the perfect green guy, which I could never be, and which like so few of us could be in a way, because it's just not that possible. We've got families, we've got jobs, we've got careers, we've got we live in places where it's not even probably possible to live in a sustainable way sometimes. And listening to him, it was really clear that we could keep on living the way that we are, like, with our consumption and stuff, but just make it in a smarter way, so that we would just progress regularly, and that if we all did that, we could eventually kind of really stabilize in a way all the global emissions and the global warming. And he's allowed me also to understand what was happening and the challenges of the global warming, and a lot of it is really related to the ice, to all the polar ice. And he's been talking about 3 poles, so like the North Pole, the South Pole, and all the Tibetan Plateau, all the Himalayas, which is kind of the equivalent of those 2 previous poles. And to me, like kind of when he was doing all the presentation, it kind of rang a bell that these were the most amazing places that I had been like witnessing as a snowboarder, and that it would be such a nice story to go as a kind of stupid snowboarder in a way to these places, to show how beautiful they were through the snowboarding, and to learn on the way, what was happening in the world, and kind of tell all that message from Johan. That's so fascinating. By the way, if you have the chance, if you're interested in sustainability, or even if you're not, and you want a kind of easy breakdown of what's going on with the latest data in a way, because like those guys produce all the data. I really encourage you to go and watch some of his podcasts, like Johan Rockström. He's like an incredible guy and very simple to understand, very straight to the point, and not in a way too doomy gloomy. And I really like his approach.
Yeah, I never heard about him before. I listened to a couple of your podcasts. I heard him speak on one of them. That's I have to look that up. The whole there's so many things in it and in this global warming debate. And I think this is what troubles a lot of people. It's gone from something that had a small community in the science field to something that is suddenly a consensus, and it has become very, very political over time, right? And these things have only happened in the last 10, 15 years. And I sometimes compare them. Maybe this is not a fair comparison. When I was an extreme lefty, and when I was 18, 19, well, it wasn't close to Antifa, but it was very close in the same area, in a non-violent way. And the time really had that topic about the ozone layer, and the ozone layer would basically go away within a couple of years, and everyone was fearful and was panicky, and fortunately it didn't happen, right? But the panic and I feel the whole scenario was similar to global warming, and maybe this is not a fair comparison, right? Because some things are more dangerous than others, and they're not all the same. But I kind of feel drawn back sometimes into the same area, and I don't feel I didn't understand the problem at all, and I didn't want to, right? I just wanted to ride on this emotion. And if I ask myself, looking back, at the time I didn't know any of this, right? I just wanted to be part of a community, and that was the community that was fashionable at the time. And I feel, obviously glaciers are mountains and the way mountains behave in their climate, I mean, that's very vulnerable. So I think in mountains we already see it, right? A lot of glaciers are receding, and that's certainly something to worry about. And it's an ecosystem that can easily suffer with really minimal changes. I do, and that's, I think, what a lot of people, they kind of, I don't actually know how he thinks or with your experience, but you're very polyglot, right? You speak a couple of languages and you go to anywhere on the planet. But there's a lot of places where people don't really worry about the glaciers because literally they have nothing to eat, right? So carbon and the way energy is being produced is their only ticket out of literally dying from hunger. And there's, a lot of places in Africa like this. It's getting much better, but even India, Bangladesh, there's a lot of places you couldn't care less about the climate if they care about their own survival, right? And that might change in the next 10 years, hopefully, right? That's kind of what my podcast wants to really do, is bring the message of entrepreneurship everywhere. I mean, they don't need me for it, but I want to try to make it a little easier to get access to this knowledge. How do you feel, other countries and other places that have very different interests than where we are right now in Europe and the US, how they fit into the sustainability debate? Do you think we give them 20 years and then they can join in and then they can kind of take our lessons? Or do you feel we're kind of playing with fire there?
Well, I think, it's a very wide topic, but of course, it's pretty obvious that when you have to fight for your food and when you're not sure that you're going to get food the next month for your kids, sustainability is going to be the last of your problems. And especially probably if you're in that stage, you don't have time to really spend to research, to understand what's happening. So for sure, it's not going to be a priority. And it's the luxury that we have in our societies in a way to have the time and the knowledge to realize what's going on. And I think like the difference from like probably the 90s, like when there was this like this ozone kind of whole layer, like this big thing, is that like now, I think there are many more ways to measure what's going on and to predict, and it's a lot more accurate. And when you put everything together, I think it's pretty scary. And that's why I thought it was so interesting, because it's true that when you don't know exactly what's going on, it's really hard to care for it, because you feel that, okay, you care deeply about it because it's trendy to care about it. But that, maybe like the problem will solve itself. but now the curves are actually like getting pretty bad. And yeah, I'm like, once again, like, this is why I wanted to do this project, because on a personal level, I found always so hard to know exactly what was going on, and to have someone like this being able to tell you exactly with facts and numbers and predictions and like big like models what's going on, it's pretty scary. And you were talking about glaciers before, and I think, to me, you know, the fact that glaciers disappear in itself, it's not a big deal. Okay, like, you could be like, oh, poor snowboarders, you're going to be disappointed because you don't have your glaciers to ride on anymore. But it's not really the thing. It's just that, you know, the melt of glacier is the representation. It's one of the things where you can actually see how fast it goes and how exponential it is going. And I think, you know, it should be more taken in you know, as a sign rather as a consequence, which is scary, because the consequence itself is no big deal. But if the glacier disappear, or when the glacier disappears, it's all the other consequences that go with this consequence, which will be the scary ones. And the worst thing is that the people that are going to suffer the most from it is those people that you mentioned before, that couldn't care less right now, because they struggle for their life, and they'll be the ones suffering the most at first, and that's kind of a bit of the side, one of the sad side of the stories, among many. But yeah, once again, it's like it's a very tricky subject, a bit political. Like, there's so many opinions about it, so it's quite tough. So yeah, in a way, for me, it was like, I just wanted to be the messenger to be giving the voice to someone that actually really knows, and like, who really inspired me as a person.
Yeah. No, I think that's there's a lot there, and a lot of this might be emotional. A lot of this might be stuff we don't see yet, right? Because we're still, you know, human history has shown that people are not the smartest, and it takes a long time to rise up to challenges. So it's probably way better to be safe than sorry. But there's so much going on. I'm you know, you can probably talk just years over those things, and I think scientists do this all the time. And it's very difficult to decipher, as you say, what actually is really going on. I guess that's the problem in most of our society these days. That's why we look up to people like you, right? Where we know, we're sure what the risk that you're taking is real, and you come out on the other hand, and on the other side, right? And that's, I think, part of that, what we want to achieve with this show is telling real stories of people who are real, who are not making up things we can't prove. And you know, I think people are looking up to you. I'm looking up to you, that you are able to take that amount of risk and be comfortable with it. And you know, you're doing something. I think it's something very positive to the world, in showing people that they can grow out of their own little comfort zone and go somewhere where it looks maybe suicidal to the outside, but once you learn how to do it, it's become still dangerous, but still very much manageable. And I think this is extremely laudable.
Thanks. I appreciate that you say that, because this is something, you know, I am, like, in a way proud of, you know, like all these kind of mountaineering values that you get when you're out there, and when you really need to learn to care for yourself, not necessarily just do, you know, like not acting by only reacting with like noises from people telling you, okay, this is dangerous, but being able to, you know, like, okay, how far can I go until it is still safe to go back, to turn back, kind of, in a way. But at least I will have gone there and seen, instead of just not going and turning back because someone said it's dangerous. So I think there's a lot to this in the whole mountaineering aspect of things, and I think this is something that I try to transfer into my life, and that I would really love like many children to kind of being brought up in a bit of that spirit. I know my children, I try to teach them that, you know, to just not like just listen too much like what everyone else tells you, and especially when it comes to fear and danger, but like kind of be smart about it, like take the information make your own judgment and like mix the two together and like take your decision in a way. So this is exactly the way we work in the mountains, and I think that this is like something like which makes you take life, by the balls and like really appreciate it. And I think I hope that my daughters really grew up with that philosophy, and actually, my eldest daughter is 15 years old, and I can already see the result in her. And I think I'm very happy about this approach. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I feel very comfortable with it. Yeah.
This is the best wrap I could ask for. Xavier, thanks for doing this. That was fantastic. Thanks for sharing these stories. And
Excellent, Torsten. It's been a pleasure to share that moment with you and having this nice discussion about subjects that are dear to my heart. So thank you very much for sharing this with everyone.
Xavier, my pleasure, and stay safe.
You too. Bye.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.